This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All righty, we are back. We thank Richard Williams from Kansas for joining us to talk a little rock and roll. Looking forward to watching Kansas tomorrow night. Gilbert Martinez, by the way, sir, thank you for a little love there on the super chat along with Dougie Fresh. As always, all right, you saw it there. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Manny Navarro. And our Canes wear Miami Hurricanes report. How you feeling, my man? Feeling good?
Doing great. Waiting for this recruiting weekend to subside. Waiting for some coordinator news, hopefully, and just waiting for to kind of go into the offseason. I feel like we've gone through this month of January. So many rumors, so many like developments of, hey, who's going to be the coordinator? Who's gonna, what recruits are they going to land? What is Mario going to be able to do? And now we're kind of reaching the crescendo. Next week, next Wednesday is National Signing Day, and we'll see what happens here.
All right. What are the players in play on the recruiting side? Educate us, my man. Who are the guys that Canes fans should be hoping that they're able to land?
Yeah, I think there's about 11 guys in play right here that they've been either visiting this weekend or have visited here the last month that are all in play for Miami. I'll go over the list quickly. Most of them are offensive linemen and defensive linemen. Mario did say he was going to dive into the trenches. The one running back, let's start with him. Trevante Citizen out of Louisiana, 4-star running back. He's supposed to be coming down for a visit. Miami picked up Henry Parrish from Ole Miss. They've got 5 scholarship running backs. The odds that they end up getting Citizen, to me, probably aren't good. I think I
was going to ask you about that because they seem like they have a lot of backs.
Yeah. I would think he's going to end up going somewhere else. But who knows? I mean, he's coming down on his last official visit here. Maybe Miami wants 6 running backs for a reason. Maybe they know somebody else is out the door soon. All of those things remain to be seen. As far as the biggest recruit on campus this weekend, Shamar Stewart, the 5-star defensive lineman out of Miami Monsignor Pace. He's 6'6", 272. I did an interview with him this week. It's actually on my Wide Right podcast. And Shamar is a guy who really wants to play edge. He doesn't want to be, moved inside to defensive tackle. And, one thing he talked about was getting to know Miami's defensive coordinator. Well, obviously there's no defensive coordinator in place. He wants to make sure that he's got these guarantees that he'll be out on the edge and not moved inside. I think the issue is eventually Shamar's probably going to be moved inside. He's just such a big mammoth guy. He's going to put on more weight. Ultimately, is he fast enough on the edge? Is he going to make as many plays as you want, or is he going to be more effective on the inside? And you know how this works. So all of these kids go through the process. They get to school. They want to play a certain position. Then all of a sudden the coach says, hey, you want to get on the field, you better move here because here you can get on the field faster. So
right.
I think, while Georgia and Texas A&M are definitely players in this, I think if Miami can really have a great weekend with him this week, and there's a chance that he could stay home. But right now, I say Texas A&M is the leader, and if Miami, doesn't name a defensive coordinator sometime soon, or at least make him feel reassured, I think he's probably headed to the SEC. Besides him, there's 6 other visitors on campus this week, and I'll mention all of them. 5-star offensive tackle Josh Connerly. He's a kid out of Washington. He's not going to make an announcement on Wednesday. He's a kid who's going to wait till March, he said, to announce. So even though he's coming down here, he may say a lot of great things. Miami fans don't need to worry about him. There's a defensive tackle out of Georgia, Christian Miller, 6'4", 294. Everybody thinks Ohio State or Georgia for him. He's coming down here. I think the Hurricanes are sort of a long shot to get him. There's a kid, 3-star offensive tackle, Inez Cooper out of Alabama, 6'6", 352. Not much in the way of competition for Miami. I think he's kind of like a plan B kid. If Miami doesn't land some of these other offensive linemen they want, I think they'll probably offer him and get him. And then there's two local kids, both from Cardinal Gibbons, the state championship team here in South Florida. One of them is R. Mason Thomas. He's a 6'2", 220-pound edge rusher. And then there's a defensive tackle, Ahmad Moten, whose older brother played for Miami, 6'3", 290. Both of them went to Oklahoma last week. Thomas is an Iowa State commitment. Obviously, he's still looking, visiting Oklahoma and Miami. I think Miami really wants Thomas. I don't know that. I mean, I think they'll take Moten as well, but I think Moten's probably headed to Oklahoma. Thomas is the kid that they have more of a chance at. And then the kids that previously visited, those we just went over the ones that are all here this weekend. The ones that previously visited that Miami still has a shot at. I think Dave Ayuli, he's a 6'5", 315-pound offensive lineman out of Puyallup, Washington. And he came here and he's raved about it. He went to the Polynesian Bowl, the high school All-American game out there. And it seems like he's headed to Miami. I think he's a lock to come here. 3-star offensive tackle Matthew McCoy, a kid out of St. Augustine Creekside. His mom and his family came down with him on his visit a couple weeks ago. Kid loved it. I think Miami's a player, but I would tend to lean towards Florida right now because it's closer to home, and who knows? He's visited there. He's visiting there this weekend as well, and has visited there in the past. And then you have 3-star edge rusher Jack Pyburn out of Jacksonville Bulls, who is a kid that I love. I interviewed him as well on my podcast this week. He just sounds like one of these super intense, focused players. He wakes up at 4 a.m. He text messages Mario Cristobal, who's Miami's been recruiting him since Cristobal basically came in, and they kind of talk about their workouts. I mean, the kid he's a wrestler. He's a really good player. I think he's he's taking a surprise visit this weekend to Florida. Now, Florida's where both of his parents went. He grew up a Gators fan. He wants to play in a stadium that's filled every single week, and those things are important to him. But he also has this great relationship with Mario Cristobal. So we'll see. He could end up taking a surprise visit here, according to Canesport.com. He could end up coming here Sunday after his 2 days in Gainesville. So, look, Miami's battling for guys. You know how it works. Anytime a coach takes over, it takes a little bit of time, right? I think Miami is very well positioned for 2023, 2024. That they had that weekend last Saturday. I was down there for a few hours talking to kids on campus. But this weekend and what happens over the next few days leading into Wednesday on signing day, it'll be interesting to watch, who Miami really impresses and who ends up elsewhere. But look, they're at 15 recruits right now, 10 players, 5 transfers that they've landed. Mario said they want to get to between 16 and 20. So you got 11 on the board. They get half of that. They reach their goal, right? They get between 16 and 20. So
yeah, wow, that
was a mouthful. Sorry.
I know, but in a way, as you were telling me all of this, I kept thinking about how the numbers were low for Manny as it was. I'm talking about Diaz. Right. And so it kind of became a blessing, actually, because imagine if he would have picked up a bunch of guys, then it becomes a bigger mess for Cristobal to have to manage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's funny how all of that kind of has worked out for Cristobal.
Yeah, and in the end, the whole scholarship number, I think they're like at 84, 85 scholarship kids now as it stands. Like they don't have a ton of room to add guys, which tells me, the whole transfer portal thing, by the way, just so your listeners understand it, every time you lose a transfer, you can sign, it counts that you have like a running number of guys that leave the program, right? So you can sign up to 7 more. You're allowed to sign 25 every year, but you can sign up to 7 more based on how many guys leave on transfer. You lose 7 guys, you can get 7. You lose 6, you can get 6 more scholarships. So that's the new rule that's in place. That said, I still think there's going to be, we're going to get to spring football. Guys are going to go through practice. And that's why I keep telling everybody, this is like a year-round thing now, this roster management. It used to be everybody worried about February, right? The first Wednesday. Right. Now it's like this roster change is going to just continue, I think, through the spring, through the summer. Guys are going to be leaving. Guys are going to be coming in. So, and again, the transfer portal is such a big deal because those are the guys that are really ready to come in and contribute. A lot of these high school kids, they're not going to play. Oh, we know it. I mean, they're going to come in and they're going to sit. They're going to, spend the year putting on the weight. So I think Miami is, as you mentioned, Manny Diaz not signing a lot of guys. We knew that at the start of the year. This wasn't going to be a very big class because of the rollover from COVID, right? The extra year that all these guys got. That's why the roster numbers are so large. So I expect a lot of change. And I think the main focus, and I tried to express that in my article in The Athletic this week, is Mario really wants to get better in the trenches. I don't think he necessarily likes some of the stuff that he's got here on both sides of the line, and he's trying to improve it as best as he can. And it just takes time. It's going to take.
You mean get back to what they used to do, win the battle
right.
up the line?
Yeah. I mean, that's listen, if you're going to win a national championship, I mean, if you're going to play Georgia and Alabama and have any chance to beat them, you got to kick ass up front. And you
You
know,
need Russell Maryland, and you need Casey Jones, and you need you need tough some bitches like that to kind of win that, because that's what they used to have here. They used to have like the Mario and the Lewis Cristobal's on the line.
right?
They had the Warren Sapps. Those are the kind of guys they used to have. Jimmy Jones, give me a Jimmy Jones. We don't even have a Jimmy Jones on the D line. Okay, get me stuff like that. And
Yeah.
we're
And I think that's been the emphasis this whole time, and it will be going into next year. Now, the one thing you have to remember is South Florida. There's not a whole lot of those guys down here, right? The big trench bullies. As much as you'll get a Leonard Taylor, right, the 5-star kid they got last year, who I think is going to be an absolute beast for them. That's once every few years that you see that in South Florida. That you see a
Get your
five,
ass out to the Midwest, baby. Let's go.
right?
Corn fed.
Like this year, it's Shamar Stewart. He's the big, huge guy. They got the Nigel Lee Kelly kid as the edge rusher. But the offensive lineman. I mean, he's going Samoan and Polynesian, bro. He's going he's
I'm good
going
with
to the
that.
West Coast,
I'm good with
getting those
that.
kids.
Yeah.
Right. He brought in one of his former kids at Oregon who was going to be in the rotation at guard. That's one of the transfers that they landed earlier this week. The kid finally enrolled Wednesday. We've been hearing about him potentially coming in for weeks, and now he finally announces that he'll be one of the transfers in there. Logan Sagapolu. I think he squats 600 pounds, over 600 pounds. So just a guy that can move the pile. That's what they want. And I'm not, again, I keep
Can
telling
we
people,
clone a young Bryant McKinney? Let's go.
right. It's getting those guys up front, man, they're going to move bodies. I mean, Mario watched enough film, and I think he said to himself, we're not moving bodies here, bro. We're not
Yeah,
moving the line.
it's been a while
Yeah.
that we've watched the University of Miami dominate at the lines.
Yeah.
A long time, man. We've watched individual players at times throughout the year that were pretty good, guys on the line, individuals.
Yeah.
But we have not seen dominant units,
No.
which is why they won titles. Yeah, you had your Michael Irvins and the Perrimans and the Blades of the world and all the quarterbacks throwing it and the running backs running, but bro, the hogs in the middle, whether it was D or O line, those were the guys that were making things happen all the damn time, and that's been the difference. We haven't seen entire offensive lines and D lines dominate for the Canes.
Yeah.
Long time, man.
Yeah, it's been a while. And I would say this, go back and look at the numbers. Worst rushing team in the ACC, 3.9 yards a carry. Jalen Knighton under 4 yards a carry. Like, obviously, they had injuries last year at running back. I get it. No Don Chaney. You end up losing Cam Harris in the middle of the year. Cam Harris had been playing well for you. You lose him in that North Carolina game. I get it, but they're going to run the football this year. Everybody's like, hey, Tyler's going to throw it all over the field. I'm like, hey, you guys need to realize Mario's an offensive lineman, dude. He wants to run the ball. Yeah. And I'll tell you, every year at Oregon, go and look at the numbers. Every year at Oregon, their yards per carry, even when they had Herbert there, okay?
Yeah. Well, he was part of the running game.
Right. So I think, while certainly Miami's going to have one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC, if not the guy who could potentially be the player of the year if Miami has a great season, I think they're going to run the football, and you're going to see a commitment to running the football and being better at it.
I'm looking forward to that. All right. Coaches, bro. What are the delays? What's the names? Give me some rumors.
Well, let me first start off with the delays. I tried to explain this in my story yesterday for The Athletic, where I'm trying to paint a picture of first of all, Mario is taking a super deep dive into every one of these candidates. Okay, every guy between the recruiting. Okay, and I don't know if people have been watching Mario on Twitter, but he's in Washington on Wednesday.
Everywhere.
He was in. I mean, the guy is all over the planet. Doing in-house visits. So it's kind of hard to do a coach search while you're in the middle of recruiting, right? It's kind of hard to do that all at the same time. I don't know how the hell he does it.
I'm flying to Marietta. Meet me in Marietta tomorrow at noon. We'll talk for a couple of hours. That's it.
Right. Well, listen, the rumors, if you listen to the internet boards and all these internet reporters, all these Twitter Canes beat writers, right, that are just on Twitter, they're supposed to be a coaching hire at some point today, right? Everybody's, it's going to be Friday. It's going to be this coach. It's going to be that coach, all because of Shamar Stewart, right? Like they're going to hire a coordinator just to please a kid. No, I don't necessarily believe that. I think Mario, from my conversations with people in the program and close to the program, he's been taking his time because the NFL coaching tree is going to get shaken up, right? There were 2 hires yesterday. I think there's still 7 openings, right? Oh, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And I think there's guys that are in those ranks that would prefer to coach in the NFL, okay, than to coach in college. But if the opportunity didn't present itself in the NFL, they'd be willing to come to college and be the coordinators on offense and defense. And
And the reverse is also guys that get hired will free up guys that will get fired, and some of
right,
those guys may be options for him also. So he may have a guy targeted that he knows is only being held as an insurance policy
correct.
until they get their head coach, who then will decide who to keep and who to replace, and then he expects to get that guy. So I kind of I'm picking up on what you're doing there. Okay, I get it. I get it.
It's a domino effect. And look, there's guys that he's interviewed that he's liked through the process. I'm sure they've discussed money, they've discussed scenarios, they've discussed assistant coaches. But I don't think he's in any rush. And I tried to break this down in my story. Miami fans, oh well, the players, the recruits need to know who the coordinators are. And I'm like, well, I just spent the weekend at Miami talking to all these 2023 and 24 kids. They didn't give a damn. They were there just, hey, I'm at Miami. I'm taking pictures. I'm doing videos. I'm enjoying Coach Cristobal. He seems like a cool. For those kids, it doesn't matter. They're a year away from deciding. The 11 guys that they're talking to now, sure, they would love to know who the coordinators are. But you're adding, like I said, maybe a handful of guys. So why are you going to rush through the process for 5 recruits? Oh, why are you going to? What's the point of that? Mario's thinking is always long term. It's always big picture. It's always about the players and getting the best players and getting the best coaches. And this process that he's taken, he's in no rush, man. He's in no rush. I think while there's always a possibility you could hear an announcement, where he just finally breaks down and says, "Hey, this is who I'm hiring." I think the NFL deal is really what's affected this whole process. And I want people to understand that. Why hasn't he gone faster? Because he's waiting for people to A, get eliminated, or B, even end their college contracts, right? A lot of guys are signed through signing day, right? Coaches aren't allowed to leave programs contractually.
Right. No, yeah.
And so maybe after Wednesday is when we get the news. Maybe he already knows and he gets to tell Shamar Stewart, hey, this guy's going to be my defensive coordinator. I'm only telling you. And but we're going to announce it a week after signing day. We're going to announce it whenever we can. So I think Miami fans just need to be patient. I get it. There's a lot of angst and urgency and feeling of, man, this guy, what is he doing? There's a method to his madness. And as I wrote in my article, there are a lot of other great things happening for Miami's program right now in terms of structurally becoming the type of Power 5 program that you need. And that's developmental staff. I spoke to Rudy Fernandez a couple of weeks ago. He was on my podcast as well. Rudy, of course, was the one, behind hiring Mario and Dan Radakovich, the new athletic director. Julio Frank's right-hand man. He talked about it with me that, they had one person assigned as developmental staff. Clemson had 12. They know all about Clemson because Radakovich ran that program. And when he was doing his homework, found out Clemson has 12 people. So 12 developmental staff, people that work in terms of massages, getting kids tutored, whatever it is, all the on-campus stuff that you need, the one-on-one attention that these kids need to keep them in line, to keep them focused, to do all the things they're supposed to do. Miami had one guy in that position last year under Manny Diaz. Mario made sure when he signed on the dotted line that he got just as much as Clemson, if not more. So all of those hirings, all those other jobs are being put in place. I also mentioned the Andrew Rogers kid, the kid that was at Michigan State, helping them running their transfer portal. We saw what Michigan State did in 1 year running the transfer portal, right? Going from 4 wins or whatever it was, 2 wins to winning 11 games in the Peach Bowl. So
Can I follow up on something there?
yeah, go ahead.
Can you do a story? Maybe you did and I missed it. Can you do a story on that guy and how is there a skill or something to follow this transfer portal? Because it's thousands of kids that are in this thing.
Right.
So how do you decipher all of this? How do you find everything? How do you, how do you what is it? Categorize it or
Yeah,
whatever you
well,
do for the head coach? Because I'm really interested to see how that whole process, because obviously if you hired somebody to do that, then there has to be some kind of a skill set. It's not just some secretary going, all right, let me write his name down. It's Andy Ellisberg. Yes.
right.
Offensive lineman, 6'7", leaving the Heat, going to well, you know what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
there has to be something there, right? Because if they're taking him away from Michigan State, you just said, look what he did at Michigan State. So there's something to this thing, right?
Oh, absolutely. One, first of all, there's a relationship. Rogers is his father coached Alonzo Highsmith at Columbus. He was one of the assistant
Okay.
coaches at Columbus back in the day. Grew up in Stuart, Florida. So this is a homecoming for him, so to speak. And obviously, there's the Columbus connection, right, to Cristobal and everybody else, Mirabal on the staff. So he's a
The
young
Columbus
kid.
Mafia.
The Columbus Mafia. Yeah, he's 26 years old. Now, look, I did a story on the guy who used to be, in charge of watching the transfer portal for Miami. This is back even, when Manny Diaz first took over. I can tell you that process, when the transfer portal was first sort of starting out, this guy was overloaded. He wasn't just doing the transfer portal. He was also working on, recruiting, scouting. So now there's somebody specifically tied to just monitoring the transfer portal all day. That's what this guy does. And it's this is about college staffs adjusting to what's changing, right, in the world, right? And so a lot of times, just so you know, when kids put their name in the transfer portal, what you get, okay, what these guys look at, and I've seen it. I've actually seen the actual transfer portal. We have some writers at The Athletic who have links to get into this thing, right? Really good team at The Athletic. Oh,
Nice.
so these guys, what you see is a name, an
So they're half,
email,
half writers, half hackers.
right,
Gotcha. Okay.
right.
All right. Athletic hiring hackers. Attention all, the New York Times and The Athletic hiring hackers. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I appreciate that. That made me laugh. So anyway, when these kids put their name in the transfer portal, it's not like all of a sudden there's a whole profile on them. It's a name, it's an email, and a school and the sport that they play. Nothing on the position, nothing on height and weight, no scouting reports, none of that.
Oh.
So now think about it. It's just like an NFL department, right? Player personnel
Now you've
department.
got to
What
decipher
happens?
all that.
You got to decipher all of that information and break it down. This kid does that, and he communicates with the coaches on a daily, hourly basis
Because it's
all the time.
it's a timely thing. Because
It's all
you're
about who's
competing against
first.
somebody else, and it might be a specific talent that you all need, and boom, first come, first serve. Kind of like,
Right.
yeah, I got
You got to jump on it quickly, and you got to have a good system. And some guys are more efficient at it than others. And again, as I mentioned before, the guy who did it when the transfer portal first started at Miami, he was doing that and high school recruiting stuff. Imagine all those tasks. How's that person going to do as good a job if he's just not focused on that? So there's essentially college scouting departments where these guys create folders now, just like the guys did in the NFL back in the day, and they have folders for thousands of players, and they keep track of every information, every recruit who's been on your campus, every little detail, so that if you want to reach out to that kid or that parent or whoever's in the transfer portal, you don't just have to go through the email address. You have a whole
Did you
database
write that story already?
I wrote this one a couple years ago for The Athletic. It's one of the first stories I wrote of how the transfer portal worked.
Okay. But things have to have changed and
they're
evolved since then.
They're much more evolved, much more efficient. And this
you got to do it again, bro. You got to do that story again.
Yeah, well, hopefully I can sit down and talk with Andrew at some point. Hopefully,
not only that, you should try to get somebody in another school.
Yeah,
to see how it is on the competition side, all that kind of stuff.
I think that's a perfect story idea. I'm going to pitch it to some of the other guys at The Athletic to see if maybe we talk to different people. And listen, David Ubman did a story this week actually talking to people that involved in the transfer portal for The Athletic. For us, you can go to The Athletic and read that story. In fact, I hadn't retweeted it yet. Yeah, David, just the secrets of the transfer portal. It's kind of like very similar to what you were talking about. But it's as far as Miami and this kid and his tactics, I would love to know some of what he does to be so efficient at it and to be so good at it to land quality players. So again, college football's changing, man. Like everybody's talking about getting rid of divisions. I mean, this we could go on and on for hours talking about stuff, man. This is interesting stuff. And we got a great coach here now in South Florida, great recruiter. I mean, this guy is just relentless as far as recruiting. I mean, I don't know how many head coaches spend as many hours as Mario does recruiting, but he's just the intensity of it, calling parents and cousins and whoever he needs to talk to. He's constantly on the phone, and I think eventually this thing's going to turn around, man. It's going to take a little while. He's got to get the roster right. He's got to get that offensive line, that defensive line right.
Follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro. Subscribe to The Athletic so you can get all those juicy stories and some great insight. And who knows, they might teach you how to hack too. All these kind of things. It's all possible at The Athletic. Anyway, follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro. All right, Manny, have a great weekend, my brother. We'll catch up on Tuesday.
Yep, take care.
You got it. There you go. Our Caneswear Miami Hurricanes report.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.